Good Vacht, everybody. Shavua Tov. You know, it's very seldom that we push off our shiur from Thursday night to another night of the week, but I'm sure everybody's having the same idea about how disoriented we really are with what day of the week it is. Baruch Hashem, between the Shabbosos and the Yom Tovim, going back and forth between Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and now coming up Sukkot. It's now Matzah Shabbos. It's a very, very beautiful time of the year. And although if you ask somebody who needs to prepare the Seudas for Yontif, you may hear that the way the days fall out this year, it's a bit challenging, because almost every single day is either a Shabbos or a Yontif. But we definitely have to feel that these days and these weeks that we're going through right now are very, very special. And tonight, the reason we pushed the shiur to after Shabbos is because we're going to do a special shiur for the Yom Tov of Sukkos, which is coming up on Monday night. And Nesivos Shalom tells us many, many times that really a Jew lives for Shabbosos and Yom Tovim. Most beautiful time of the week, most beautiful time of the year. And right after this Shabbos, which we just passed, coming up is Chag Sukkos, coming up just 2 days away. And each of the Yom Tovim, we know, has its own segula. Every single one of the Yom Tovim has its theme and its segula, its thing which it is known for, which we really see from the Torah. It has its own characteristics and essence of the Yontif. And being that Sukkos is actually called Zman Simchaseinu by Chazal, we say it in the Tefillah. Chag Sukkos is Zman Simchaseinu. So we know that the essence of this Yontif is Simcha, joy. The essence of Sukkos, this Yontif coming up this week, when we get to the root of the matter, we get to the essence of the Yontif is Simcha. The Yontif is joy. And really, just as Pesach is Zman Cherusenu, a season, a time of freedom, and Shavuos is Zman Matan Torasenu, the time which we receive the Torah, a time of receiving the Torah every single year. Whenever we come around to Pesach, it's a time of freedom. Whenever we come around to Shavuos, it's a time of receiving the Torah, and it's more mesugal for that. It's more mesugal for freedom, and it's more mesugal for Kabbalah HaTorah. So too, Sukkos is called Zaman Simchaseinu. Sukkos, when we come around to it every year, it is a time that is more mesugal for joy. And the question that needs to be asked in Nesivos Shalom is really, why is it that way? Doesn't every single Yontif really have a mitzvah of simcha? Why do we single out Sukkos as special as Zman Cherusenu? So too, we know when it comes to the Simchas Beis HaShe'eva, the mitzvah of Nisuch HaMayim, Chazal tell us that Kol Mi Shaloi Ro'ah Simchas Beis HaShe'eva, any person, we just learned it in the Daf Yomi a couple of weeks ago, this whole inyan of Simchas Beis HaShe'eva, any person who has not seen the joy and the Simchas Beis HaShe'eva Le'ra'ah Simcha Miyamav, you haven't seen a festive time like that. You haven't seen such Simcha ever. In other words, you had to have seen Simchas Beis HaShe'eva to really understand and feel what Simcha is. And Yerushalmi Masechta Sukkah says that it's actually called Beis HaShe'eva. Why is Simchas Beis HaShe'eva? Why is it called Beis HaShe'eva? Zakti Yerushalmi, because Misham Shayavim Ruach HaKodesh. From that matzav, from that occasion, of during that time, Shayavim, Simchas Beis HaShe'eva, Shayavim Ruach HaKodesh. Ruach HaKodesh was drawn from the Simchas Beis HaShe'eva. And the Rambam tells us that even though the Taka was Simcha by all the Yom Tovim, the Rambam tells us that the Simcha of Sukkos was an extra amount of Simcha in the Beis HaMikdash. Yes, there's a mitzvah of Simcha by all the Yom Tovim, but Sukkos is really something extra. And not simply because there's more of a mitzvah to have more simcha. That's not just because of that. Yes, there is a mitzvah to have simcha, but not just because of that. Sukkot is different, is because the mitzias hachag, the essence and the mitzias of the yontif of Sukkot is one of simcha, is one of joy. Not just a mitzvah to have simcha, but a mitzvah to notice and to realize that Sukkot has an extra dose of simcha. It is a yontif of simcha yisera. And Chazal tell us, if you look around, you read the Chazal that talk about Simchas Beis HaShe'eva and Sukkot, Chazal tell us that the Gedolim and the Chachmei Yisrael, the Rosh Yeshivas, the Sanhedrin, the Hasidim, the Anshe Maisa, all these kind of people, these were the people that led the Simcha. They were the ones dancing and singing and playing the instruments in the Beis HaMikdash. It was extremely chashuva simcha, very well represented by the dignitaries and the most chashuva people in Klal Yisrael. They were the ones who actually led the celebrations at the Beis HaMikdash. And what a simcha it was. Try to picture all those types of people, all those leaders being the ones at the forefront who danced and played the instruments and did everything in the time of the Beis HaMikdash. It truly was a sight to behold and a tremendous, tremendous simcha. And the Nesivos Shalom tells us that there's actually a very, very good reason why we today are so overjoyed when it comes to the Yom Tov of Sukkot. And it's for very, very good reason that we maintain up to this day, not only during the time of the Beis HaMikdash, every year when Sukkot comes around, we have the same joy of this Yom Tov. And it's for very, very good reason. And the Nesivos Shalom tells us that Sukkot, we know, comes right after the Yom Noraim. Just a couple of days, a few days ago was Yom Kippur, a week and a half ago was Rosh Hashanah. We went through so much introspection, working on ourselves, improving. We're right now holding just a couple of days after the Yom Noraim. And we've actually gone through a Yom Kippur where we've cleansed ourselves and we've changed. We're different people. Every thinking person comes out of Yom Kippur a bit of a different person. We refocus our purpose in life when it goes through the Yom Noraim. And now that we did that and we went through Yom Kippur, Sukkot is like a geder of Heviani Hamelech Hadarav, where the king is now saying that we are worthy to come into his domain, into his abode. And Hashem is now inviting us. When it comes to the Sukkah, Hashem is telling us, you're a different person. You're improved. You have improved things in your life. And Hashem is telling us that now I'm inviting you in. I'm inviting you into the Sukkah. I'm inviting you into the inner chambers of the palace. You are a different person. You're a much more chashva person. You've worked on yourself. Now it's after the Yom Noraim. I'm inviting you to come into my palace, into the inner chambers, which is the Sukkah. And that is the Sukkah. It's like being invited once again into the Beis HaMikdash. The Gemara Masechta Sukkah, Daf Tes Amud Aleph, says that there's actually a chalois kedusha on the place of the Sukkah. Your Sukkah that you're building, that is actually now being built outside, and I ran away to do this shir, this Sukkah has a chalois kedusha, a place of kedusha. It is a place of holiness. And the Zohar tells us that we're now, when we come to the Sukkah, we are now in the house of Hashem. We are in the Beis Hashem. And it's in our Sukkah, in every person's Sukkah, that Hashem shows us that love that was showed to us at the Beis HaMikdash. It was Hashem's home over there in the Beis HaMikdash. And now that unfortunately we don't have a Beis HaMikdash where we can attach ourselves and we can have the joy and come to the Sukkah, that is the house of Hashem in today's times, where Hashem is telling us, you're now worthy. I want you to come into my house. And therefore, although the other Yomim Tovim have a mitzvah of simcha, but when it comes to Sukkot, it is this great Zman Simchaseinu. It is a time, the most auspicious time for Simcha, because Hashem is showing us at this time the great love for Klal Yisrael. Klal Yisrael, you went through a Rosh Hashanah, Seres Yimei Tshuva, and a Yom Kippur. I see what you are right now. Now come to my house. Come, be with me. We're invited into the palace, and not just the palace, but into the inner chambers of the palace. And that is the essence of the Chag. That is what Sukkot represents. That is what your Sukkah represents. And that is what Hashem wants you to understand. When you come into Sukkot, that is why we are overjoyed that Hashem wants us. And that makes us exceedingly, exceedingly happy, more so than in any other time and any other Yontif. It's not just a mitzvah like the other Yom Tovim to be happy. It is the actual essence of the time that we are in right now. And that was the great happiness, really, at the Simchas Beis HaShe'eva, because we know that pouring water represents Midas Ahava. When we pour out water, we show the great love between Klal Yisrael and Hashem. The overpouring, the overflowing of the love that's in the air right now in the relationship between Klal Yisrael and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So someone who never saw that simcha, someone who never saw the simcha of Simchas Beis HaShe'eva, you may have seen things that you like, things that you love in life, but you've never seen that kind of love, a relationship between God and His chosen nation, between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Klal Yisrael. So really what we have to do is we have to remember not to act like a robot and go into the sukkah again and make your bracha and sit there and do what you did every year. This year when you come into the sukkah, you look up and you look at your sukkah and you look at your schach and you look and you understand the joy and the relationship and the fact that we're being invited into the abode of HaKadosh Baruch Hu because He wants us. He wants us in His family, Kaviyachal. He wants us to be one of His troops, one of His people. When we realize that and we think about that, we understand that we're stepping into the palace. And the Nesivos Shalom tells us something very interesting, that if you're conscious of that and you think of that and you realize where we're holding and you're overjoyed at that opportunity to be close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the Sukkah, says in the Nesivos Shalom, that is the time to ask for anything that you want to ask for in your life. It is an extremely high and holy time, a very, very time of hiskarvus, a time of being close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but you have to be thinking. You have to be a thinking person. You can't just be going through the motions. You have to understand when you sit in the sukkah that it's a place of holiness, and what you say in the sukkah is different, and we behave differently in the sukkah because we're in the palace. We're being invited by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. How are we supposed to behave? We have to behave that way. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu is inviting us because He's looking at us. He say, look, I love the way you look after Yom Kippur. I love the way you look at this time of the year. I want to have a special relationship. So you come in and you know if this is your opportunity to meet the king, if this is your opportunity to be in the palace, then you have to know that this is the time where you're able to ask for anything. You're able to be overjoyed at this great opportunity that we're going to have in just 2 days from now. This great opportunity to understand that we are Hashem's family. Hashem, throughout the generations, has had a special relationship with Klal Yisrael. Every other nation that has fought us and has despised us over the generations and has looked down at us, they're all gone. They're not around. We are the ones left standing. And it's for a very good reason. Because Hashem says, for eternity, I want the relationship with Klal Yisrael. I want a relationship with you. Let's keep that all in mind. Let's be joyous. Zaman Simchaseinu should be a time of joy for everyone in their lives. We should all be zeicha to develop and attach ourselves to that relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Should all have a Chag Sameach, a beautiful Yom Tov, and we should be zeicha, Emir Hashem, to sit in the Sukkos Leviyasan, that this should be the last Sukkos in Galus, and we should be happy, and each person in their way. Zaman Simchaseinu.